Nintendo is a company with a ton of IPs under their belt. Some of them get all the love, others are forgotten to time, others have a ton of potential but don't go anywhere. That last one describes Kid Icarus perfectly. A series with a ton of charm, but only has 3 games and is mostly associated with the Smash Bros. Series these days. I really enjoy Kid Icarus, to the point where my mains in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate are Pit and Dark Pit. They aren't low tier, by the way. With the series turning 35 this year, I decided to take a deep dive into the series with the Kid Icarus Retrospective. In this video, we'll go over all 3 games, talk about some fun trivia, and what happened to the series, and see what we would do for the future. So sit back, relax, hit the subscribe button and bell as well for notifications on future videos. And with that out of the way, let's begin. Released in 1987 for the NES, Kid Icarus graced the system with one of its more unique games. You play as the angel Pit as he has to escape from the underworld to ascend to heaven and save the goddess Palutena. Armed with only a bow, Pit takes on heaven and hell to get laid, and fuck, this game is hard. Hey, Pit, what's the craziest thing you've ever done to get some pussy? Pussy? Like a cat? I don't remember there being cats in this game. God, I hate you. Pit is insanely weak. The bow has crap range and doesn't deal that much damage at first. Not helping is that bad guys come over from all over the place and never stop. I didn't record it, but in level 3 there were so many bad guys on screen at once that the game crashed, no joke. Probably the thing that makes Kid Icarus so difficult, at least at first, is that the screen scrolls upwards. A unique idea, but in practice it makes it so that even one bad jump means a dead Pit. Oh yeah, no checkpoints either. And you don't get a refill after clearing a level. Yeah, it's that kind of game. It doesn't get any better when you get out of the underworld and go into level 4 where it turns into a where the fuck do I go kind of level. After that you go to a traditional side-scroller level. A challenging one, but a bit easier than the first 3 levels. After some more ass-kicking and rewind abusing, actually G-Man, using rewinds means that you aren't playing the game correctly. Meh. You get to the final level, which is a pretty awkward side-scrolling shooter, but it's pretty easy, and then you get to the final boss, which is pretty easy because there's a blind spot. Just fire away, and boom, you save Palutena. Pit hits puberty and gets oral from his mistress. Overall, Kid Icarus on the NES is difficult, but not overly unfair like other infamous NES games. You get a little farther each time you play, and when you remember the patterns, it becomes manageable. The weird enemy designs and items give Kid Icarus a unique charm, and the music is fantastic. The constant gameplay shifts and minor RPG elements also feel ahead of their time. While it didn't set the world on fire, the NES would not be the same without Kid Icarus. What isn't as well known about Kid Icarus is that it had a very rough production cycle. Gunpei Yokoi is credited as producing the title, but Toru Osawa came up with the idea. In Osawa's words, he was neglected during development. Osawa more or less was making a whole game from scratch by himself, which you could imagine is very difficult. Thankfully, after Metroid was finished, several staff from that game went to Osawa to help him out finish Kid Icarus, as the game had to come out in December in Japan. Despite the extra manpower, the Icarus team had to crunch hardcore to complete development. In the end, production was extremely difficult, and Osawa was never properly credited in the game. This might explain why the difficulty is so harsh in Kid Icarus, and why the series didn't go anywhere unlike its sister game, Metroid. Still, Kid Icarus is an important game in the NES library, and it gets re-released often. The definitive way to play the first title is the 3D remake on the 3DS. It makes several quality of life improvements and controls much better than the original title. It would also be remiss to not mention Pit's starring role in Captain N, where he goes by Kid Icarus and has the dumbest verbal tick of going Icus at the end of everything.
It's a Tropicus! But this is what we've been waiting for, Your Highness.
Yo, Pitstain, why don't you do that Icus thing anymore? We don't talk about that part of my career. Despite the rough production of the first title, we would get a sequel titled Kid Icarus of Myths and Monsters released in 1991 for the Game Boy. Despite being developed in Japan, Of Myths and Monsters didn't release in Japan at first, ironically enough. It only came to the country in 2012 on the 3DS eShop. The Game Boy title makes some much needed adjustments to the difficulty. The ratchet scrolling is gone so you don't die from one missed jump. Grinding for hearts is a bit easier, and there are much more health pickups. It isn't easy, but Of Myths and Monsters is decent from what I've played so far. Critics seem to like the title well enough, but that seemed to be it for Kid Icarus. There was also a rumor of a Super Kid Icarus for the Super Nintendo, but that never led to anything substantial. Oh man, we're falling into obscurity! Meh, it's not so bad. I could have pointed the camera at the 3DS for the Of Myths and Monsters and Uprising footage, but not only is the Y button broken, but the D-pad is too, so... what a waste. Other than a GBA port of the first game in Japan, Pit getting a trophy in Melee, and the odd appearances here and there, the series seemed to be banished to time. That all changed when this trailer dropped. Let me recreate my reaction from 2006. Smash Bros. Brawl! Oh my god! Woo! Yeah! Of all the newcomers in Brawl, Pit came way the fuck out of left field. Well, Snake was pretty out there too, but this is not a Metal Gear video, this is about Kid Icarus. At the time, many people thought Kid Icarus was doomed to obscurity, but Sakurai was like, nah, and gave Pit a new look and the series a jolt of popularity. Man, I look so cool in Brawl. I don't miss the ah. After Pit's reveal in Brawl, interest in a new Kid Icarus was at an all-time high. Nintendo listened, and Factor 5 got to work on a new title, tentatively called Icarus. Factor 5 made one of the best Star Wars games in Rogue Squadron. They also made Lair. You might have seen this artwork back in the day. Why can't Americans get this character right? Factor 5 had a much different vision for Kid Icarus than what Nintendo or the fans wanted, and that definitely played a part in why Factor 5's Kid Icarus didn't go anywhere. There were a lot of plot details for a Kid Icarus reboot, but ultimately the project was cancelled because it strayed too far from what Nintendo wanted in a Kid Icarus title. Plus they didn't have, gameplay to highlight, the thing Nintendo wants from their games. Sadly for Factor 5, the cancellation of Kid Icarus, as well as several other projects, caused Factor 5 to shut down their doors. Also, no one bought Lair. That definitely didn't help things. While not as known as the Factor 5 pitch, Retro also tried to pitch a Kid Icarus title, but due to not having a direction or a gameplay idea for the project, Nintendo shot down their proposal. However, Masahiro Sakurai wanted to make a new game. He had an idea for a game that had both flying and ground stages. After a bit of thinking, he wanted to use a Nintendo IP that hadn't been used for a while, and it damn sure was not going to be Sky Skipper. Star Fox was originally going to be this game, but Sakurai-san thought that it was too limited in scope. So he chose Kid Icarus and announced Kid Icarus Uprising on the 3DS. And man, people were hyped. After a few delays, Uprising released in early 2012 for the 3DS, and it was a great game. There is a lots of influence from Sega's Space Harrier and Treasure's Sin and Punishment series, and that spells awesome. You fly through the sky shooting everything that moves, and when you get on the land, you shoot everything that moves. Pit and Dark Pit are straight murdering machines in this game. Uprising could be considered Sakurai's take on a bullet hell shooter, and that is a fantastic idea. As insane as Uprising gets, it isn't unfair. The risk versus reward factor is a big part of Uprising. Harder difficulty levels means more rewards, but losing more hearts in case of death. And trust me, you will be dying a lot in this title. It also helps that you get a lot of weapons to flux around with, most of which are a blast to use. Perhaps more important than the gameplay or level design in Uprising is the character. Sakurai wrote the script to Uprising by himself, and the localization team went nuts with his version of Kid Icarus. The end result is getting a world with a lot of detail, a world that feels truly alive, and characters that are very fun, wacky, crazy, and most importantly, memorable. Pit is a lovable goofball, Dark Pit is a douchebag, Palutena has endless amounts of porn about her, and Verity is a tsundere. Yo, Pitstain, clear the browsing history. You don't want your goddess getting the wrong idea, do you? I don't know what you're talking about there, Pit 2. The controls, on the other hand, are a bit of a mixed bag. You're supposed to move with the thumbstick and aim with the touchscreen. That's why it came with a stand. And the controls work. If you're a normie virgin right-handed person, I'm a Chad left-handed main, and playing Uprising like this was kind of awkward. I used the buttons to aim, but that resulted in some very virgin hand cramps. It doesn't help that the Y button on this 3DS doesn't work, so that's not a good sign. Some people hated the controls in Uprising, but I did get used to them during my time playing the game. Keep in mind, if you have a Circle Pad Pro or a new 3DS, that extra thumbstick will help out a lot in controlling Kid Icarus Uprising. At the end of the day, Kid Icarus Uprising is a very solid game, and it could be considered a killer app in the early 3DS's life. The game cleared over 1 million units, which is pretty impressive, and there was a fair amount of promotion for the title, including several animated shorts. So that means we'll get a follow-up, right? Right? Here's the thing about Uprising. Sakurai and his team basically reinvented the wheel with the series. While the gameplay of Uprising can be updated and expanded upon, the character is hard to match. As mentioned, Sakurai wrote the script himself, and the localization team went nuts translating it. Not saying there's no one out there who can't make a new Kid Icarus, but people are expecting something with the same charm and wit as Uprising. Not helping is Sakurai being uninterested in continuing the series, plus he's busy with a different series. You may or may not have heard of it though. Even on the rumor front, Kid Icarus has been very quiet, the only major news being Sakurai acknowledging the requests for Kid Icarus, or at the very least a port of Uprising on the Switch, but saying that it's difficult to do so, whatever that means. So Z-Man, if you're so smart, why don't you make a new Kid Icarus? You know what? I will! Nintendo, here are my proposals for new Kid Icarus games. Personally, I would make 2 KI games. The first is a smaller digital title to reintroduce the series to a new audience in one of the most esoteric genres around, introducing Kid Icarus Unlimited, a bullet hell shooter. I love the old school 2D bullet hell shooters. These games are so much fun to me, and Kid Icarus would be perfect for this genre. Get the guys who made Danmaku Unlimited or Crimson Clover to make it. Those 2 titles are some of the most accessible bullet hell shooters around, and I think people would be about it, but I might be a bit biased here. For the major AAA game, I'd want something that expands the air and ground combat, something where you could jump and fly around on command. It's a weird comparison, but something like Anthem would be a good model for a Kid Icarus game, but you know, good. As crap as Anthem was, they had the right idea with being able to jump and fly whenever. I need Lady Palutena's power to fly though. Shut up, it's my idea, I can do what I want. Give Kid Icarus Switch that Neo structure where you constantly get more loot, get more power, and the game is really fucking hard, but fair. That's the important thing here. I'm also biased here too because Neo is really goddamn good. Get someone like Platinum or Team Ninja to develop the game and hire someone who can rip off Sakurai's writing style and boom, instant success. If something as out there as Astral Chain can clear 1 million units, there is no reason why a new Kid Icarus wouldn't. Nintendo, have some faith in your IPs. If someone at Nintendo is watching this video, please give those ideas to Mr. Nintendo himself. I want to see these Kid Icarus games get made. Please, just do it. I really do feel that Kid Icarus is on the brink of being a really major franchise. Maybe not to the extent of, say, a Mario or a Zelda, but at least at that Xenoblade level. All you need is that one person, that one company to really have a direction and a vision for the series. Because for the most part, whenever Nintendo's been publishing a game as of late, as of the last like 3-4 years, they've been doing really well for themselves, at least if it's on the Switch. I'm really impressed that games like Astral Chain and Xenoblade Chronicles 2 have been selling as well as they did. At the very least, there is a ray of hope with Miitomo coming to the Switch. That does give me hope that we will get some more 3DS games coming to the Switch. And I think Kid Icarus would be perfect for the Switch. Still, it's fun to dream. But on the upside though, when I do these like retrospective or what killed the videos, I've actually been pretty good about predicting things. When I did my Virtual Fighter video, we got Virtual Fighter Cross Esports announced a little bit later. When I did my Samurai Kagura video, we got Samurai Kagura Cross Neptunia announced a little bit later. Star Fox, I wouldn't hold my breath on that one. But Kid Icarus, I feel like we could get a new game in here in the future. Hopefully a sequel that does not take 21 years to make. So let's keep our fingers crossed and just pray to the goddess Palutena that we will get a new Kid Icarus game. So anyway guys, leave me some comments. Have you played any of the Kid Icarus games? Or what would you do if you were in charge of a new Kid Icarus title? Let me know down there in the comments. And while you're down there, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell as well for notifications on future videos. That helps out a lot. Also be sure to follow me on the social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok as ZMangs. And with that, me and the Pits will sign off for now, and I'll see you in the next video. Later everybody.